Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Breast Cancer Physio. I'm your host Jen McKenzie, lymphedema physiotherapist and ESSA accredited exercise physiologist. I really wanted to do this short video on the topic of why do I feel so tired after radiation treatment. It's a really common theme that I see amongst my patients, and I get the sense that a lot of women and probably men who go through breast cancer treatment, but specifically at the point they're having radiation, start to feel really tired, and particularly just after radiation finishes. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on why this might be the case. Certainly fatigue as a side effect of radiation is a known side effect, and it is common, but I think there's more than just that element of the treatment technique itself that might be causing that fatigue, and I'd just like to share a few points about that. So if you enjoy this content and you would like to see more, then please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, which is completely free, and leave a comment in the section below. I would love to hear from you and find out what topics around breast cancer you'd like more information on. So without further ado, let's get into this short video on why do I feel so damn tired after radiation treatment finishes. So here's my first thoughts. When you are at the point of radiation, that is usually the last thing you're about to go through from a treatment perspective, certainly from an acute treatment perspective per se. And I think that, this is like white line fever for a lot of people. We get to that point where we're like, oh my God, I'm so close to finishing, or I've just finished. And that is sort of that feeling of like, you're running that marathon towards the end of the race and you're nearly there. And that in itself can be a little bit exhausting because you just so desperately want to finish. But I think, you're not quite there yet if you haven't finished your radiation sessions. And one of the big things we've got to remember as well is, usually at the point of radiation, you've gone from diagnosis to surgery to chemotherapy and then to radiation. So you've had all of that treatment behind you by the time you get to radiation. Now, I know not everybody goes through those types of treatment. Some people don't have to have chemotherapy, and sometimes surgery comes after chemotherapy. So there's a lot of people now that are having neoadjuvant chemotherapy, which means that you're doing your chemotherapy before you have your surgery. However, I think, like I said before, radiation can be the last thing that you go on to do. So like I said before, it's, all of that treatment combined, rather than just looking at radiation and going, geez, I got tired from radiation. Look at what you've just been through. Particularly from the point of diagnosis where, a lot of people will say that they never stepped into a hospital in their life prior to getting breast cancer, or maybe only when they went and had babies or something like that. So when you get diagnosed with breast cancer, it seems to be that, diagnosis and then the next stage of treatment can happen really rapidly. There's not much time to wrap your head around the fact that you've just been diagnosed with breast cancer. So you're sort of whisked into surgery, and then as soon as surgery finishes, there's a short break and it's on to chemotherapy. And surgery by itself, and even if we just look at diagnosis by itself, that is emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausting because of the shock of the news that has just been hit onto you. So don't underestimate how much fatigue can be starting at the point of just diagnosis and then straight on to surgery. So chemotherapy, and then if you take chemotherapy just by itself, that is an exhausting, regime most of the time. There's a lot of downtime as well with all of these treatment techniques. So if you are diagnosed with breast cancer, you are often driving to appointments, you are often sitting in waiting rooms, you are often going for scans where you are, lying down, or you're certainly not running on a treadmill to do a lot of your scans. You are then driving home after these appointments, and then you're really tired from, all of the information you've got to take in, and there's so much downtime that it's no wonder that we start to lose condition quite quickly from the point of diagnosis. So even though there's a lot of health professionals that are advocating, yes, it's great to exercise through breast cancer, there's still a lot of people that really can't go out and do a lot of exercise. And this is where I do believe that, physiotherapy and exercise physiology and the medical teams advocating exercise is so important. So this is a really big reason, guys, to get yourself looked after by a really good physiotherapist or exercise physiologist who can guide you through a tailored exercise program that's going to suit you at the point at which treatment you're at. So meaning, your exercise program or exercise regime may change depending on when you're going through chemotherapy versus radiation versus just after surgery. I think the other reason people get really tired during radiation or just after is because, particularly after, is because this is the first time usually that they have completed their, acute major treatments, being surgery, chemotherapy and radiation. And for the first time in some months usually, there's no appointments ahead of you. You don't have anything to go to. And that sort of really distinct change between, going to radiation, which is often 5 days a week for 5 weeks, it suddenly sort of hits people where they go, oh my God, like my schedule is free and what just happened to me? So it's the first time they get to really digest and unpack what they just went through, because it is quite a whirlwind, as I said before, from the point of diagnosis through to surgery, plus or minus chemotherapy, and then on to radiation if you're having that. So what a lot of women tell me is that when they ring the bell, if you're at a radiation centre and you finish your last radiation session, a lot of centres will actually get you to ring a bell and everyone gives you a big clap and it's all lovely because you've finished. Or sometimes they do, a painting on the wall and you can stick your thumbprint on the painting. So there's little sort of celebration rituals at various radiation centres. However, I think what tends to happen is once you leave the doors of that radiation centre, there's a loss of contact with those staff, particularly in those first sort of 2 to 4 weeks. And this is the point at which a lot of patients crash, or certainly this is what I'm being told. And sometimes people don't realise that's about to hit them, which is why I felt quite a genuine need to do this short video about this topic, because I want to reassure people that this is quite a normal reaction when you finish your breast cancer treatment. It is a period which people will tell me they are very teary, they're emotional, they sleep a lot of the day, they don't really feel motivated, they're a little bit like lost in the wilderness, they're not really sure sort of what to do with themselves. And everyone else is going, oh wow, you finished, like, you must feel like doing cartwheels down the beach holding onto a champagne bottle, but you actually feel the opposite of that. I liken it a little bit, if you've had kids, I liken it a little bit to when you've had a newborn baby, particularly if you've had your first child, and everyone's really excited and everyone's going, wow, this is amazing, can we come and visit? And you are sleep deprived and you are fatigued and you just don't know what to do with yourself, and you feel just super tired and flat all the time when everyone else is sort of joyous around you. So it's a really, really common thing, and like I said before, I really want people to feel reassured that not only is this quite a standard normal reaction to the fact that you've just finished treatment for breast cancer, which is not really something you can simulate, and it is also something that will pass. So 2 or 3 weeks down the track, most people are telling me that's when they start to come good. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody, by the way. If you do cartwheels down the beach with a champagne bottle, which is a really good skill set, by the way, that's okay. If you feel elated after you finished radiation, fantastic, keep that vibe going. But as I said before, I really want to reassure that it is quite a normal reaction. It's a very common reaction that people feel really flat right at the end of their treatment. So I don't think it is just radiation by itself that causes this a massive amount of fatigue. We've got to take into account the fact that what you've just been through, you may have never ever been through that in your life before. That is certainly the case for the majority of people who go through breast cancer. Yes, there's patients who are going through it for the second or the third time, but again, they probably experience fatigue in a similar way. So what I recommend is that if that period of, really low energy, a lot of fatigue persists beyond a couple of weeks, that's when I would definitely start talking to the medical team, start talking to your allied health teams, because at that point, that would be a great point to begin a tailored exercise program, join a gym where you can, experience group fitness classes if you need a little bit of social networking, a little bit of a pick-me-up with seeing other people and focusing on something that's not clinical at all. A lot of my patients always will say, and I love it when I hear this, that when they come into my clinic and they're in the gym space, that it's a really nice place to be because it's like the least clinical feeling, building that they've been to in the last sort of few months, because a lot of the time you're going to doctor's appointments or to scans and you're at hospitals or medical centres, and people almost get a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder when they have to go into that space over and over again. So one of the best things you can do is sort of put yourself in a non-clinical space, like a beach or a pool or a gym or a park, or get out in the outdoors and in the wild, so to speak, and can reconnect with nature, all of that sort of stuff, to really sort of ground yourself again, because you have just been through one of the biggest whirlwinds of your life, and do not underestimate that by any tick of the clock. So certainly pay attention to the profoundness of what you've just been through. But by the same token, if these symptoms of flatness and fatigue, and even depression and a feeling of isolation, loneliness, feeling lost, if that persists, that's definitely the time, like I said, to engage with your allied health professionals, which are your physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, and even psychologists and counsellors. So, and if you're reporting this back to your medical team and that not much is happening in terms of referral, then, throw that suggestion at them. Say, is it time for me to do more exercise? Is it time for me to see a counsellor? Because we are at such a low physical, emotional, and mental point sometimes when radiation is just finished, that it's no wonder we are very, very low and have that sense of almost like rock bottom. So that is the main message I wanted to shout out to you guys with this short video, is those really big reasons as to why people do feel very tired at the end of radiation. I really hope that you have enjoyed this content. If you do want to see more, then please subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. Give this video a big thumbs up and leave a comment in the section below. I'd really like to share and hear your stories about how people coped after radiation following breast cancer. So I release a new video each week on the topic of breast cancer. I will hopefully see you here next week again for my next video. I hope you're having a great week wherever you are. I'm Jen McKenzie, the Breast Cancer Physio. I'll see you next time.